Can you guys hear me all good?
Yeah, can hear you.
Just checking.
Hello, hello.
Talk to me nice. What's going on?
I'm back where it's 40 degrees warmer than it was at East Denver, so I'm feeling good, cozy.
Yeah, that's nice. It's been like 80 Fahrenheit all week here, so no complaints. The Euros are freezing.
Euros in disbelief.
I'm going there next week, so bundle up.
DK, how you feeling?
Like shit. So, I mean, I'm better than yesterday. So, that's an improvement.
Poor baby. If I were there, I'd nurture you back to health.
Yeah, thanks. PJ's PJ's going to come to give me a sponge bath right now, actually.
The perks of having legal live close by.
Mhm.
Can we invite the panda up? The gold panda? Okay, small crowd today.
People are in the mountains.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of people skiing that were at East Denver. Well, actually, I think some came back last night. Plus, it's been a pretty boring day overall. One thing that I recently discovered is some analytics on like the trading bots, like the R bots, so like intra AMM or SEX, central exchange to decentralized exchange, and all the infrastructure. Um, I mean, not surprising. When vol like kind of dies down, the bot volume like is like 1/15 of the volume. It's a leading indicator, I think. Well, actually, I guess it's more like the same time. But when there's no vol, then those bots like make no money. Where they usually like capture about $100 million a day. Anyways,
Across all platforms or where exactly?
yeah, all ones that use open source software. So
Oh, nice.
Hummingbot, I think, is like the main
Yeah.
structure for that, and you can tell if it's a forked version of Hummingbot, or you can tell if it's just a straight, forked version, so like a modified version, or a straight open source copy. Um, but usually there's a lot of bots running, and they usually capture about 100 million in notional a day, and they've been like grinding to a halt since the third.
Yeah, everybody's expecting this non-farm payroll this week, so hopefully the vol regime comes back for all the put and call buyers out there.
Is that tomorrow?
Friday morning before open, US Open.
But okay, we can get
It's
into
like
this.
8:30 Eastern, I guess. It's just us. All right. Well, I guess we're
Yeah,
recording, right?
right
So
now
we'll
we're
just go
recording.
with it. No, this week I guess I just wanted to talk about the current vol regime, and then people had some questions about option pricing and where to go and how that works. When it comes to options pricing, it's especially difficult, especially in crypto. You have plenty of models that you can use to price options, but the most basic forward one is the Black-Scholes model. I think that's what most protocols use. That's what the CME has a calculator that you can go on and find, a universal calculator that you can go and price your own option. We price options through a computer with a bot, so it's not, we're not doing this by hand anymore. But, we used to, price options by hand. How are you guys feeling with the current vol regime? Are you guys seeing a lot of volume lately or leading into non-farm payroll?
We did over the last few days, but it's hard to tell whether that was due to current macro events or just the fact that we're a DeFi protocol and we were in ETH Denver with a bunch of DeFi people talking about what we're doing. But yeah, the last week we've seen quite a bit of an influx in volume compared to the weeks prior. I think it was up like 300% or something.
Yeah, earlier this week we had some good volume. We had a little bit of volume when they had that like Darth Maul kind of concentrated around that like hour that happened. I think that was it yesterday or Monday. I don't know. But overall, it's kind of been tapering off the last, I'd say, 48 hours.
Yeah, it's been interesting since FTX crash was devol was like 150 or something. There was a huge spike. And then basically since then, it's been vol regime has been non-existent. It's just been down only. I think Bitcoin's like 47 or 48 right now.
Yeah.
ETH is like 57.
Let's talk about that devol. Are you talking about the devol on Deribit?
Yeah, that's the Deribit devol, and then we also have the daily devol that we do. It's a little different. And then there's bvol, right, which is something else. Somebody told me there's bvol. That was this week. I never
Yeah.
even heard of bvol.
Well, I think it's BTC specific vol. I think it's
Yeah.
BTC devol. I think that's a new product that Deribit launched probably this week.
Yeah, they're doing futures on devol, Deribit devol futures. So essentially, you could just bet volatility. You don't need to be buying options anymore, which is
I got a
interesting.
question. Do you use that product often? Because this came up in discussion in the last week that with our V3 implementation, we can do it two ways. We can take the devol or BTC devol price directly as an API feed and bring it on chain, and then use that as an index price, or we can take the implied volatility of certain assets like just wrap Bitcoin, and we can create our own devol product based on on-chain implied volatility.
That's what we
Typically,
have. We have the one that was in the Premia newsletter was a custom devol based on a few different, not necessarily on chain, but a few different exchanges all pulled together. So you may see a little different than the Deribit devol chart, but it's going to be. I mean, if you guys do your own on chain, it's going to be a little different. Maybe you can put both together and you can create like an index price, like an average price.
like the old school BitMEX index, where it's
Yeah,
like multiple
yeah.
price feeds.
I think they still have that actually. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we do.
yeah. I think that would
Talking
be
about like a
interesting.
Satoshi, what's good?
hey, what's up, guys? Marty invited me. I don't think I ever introduced myself, but
Welcome.
thank you. Yeah. I've been trading options mainly on Deribit, but it sounds like and definitely been keeping an eye on Premia. Super interested. I think you guys were just talking about like a VIX product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just super cool. I mean, I think FTX had one. It was called like Move. I think it
Yeah,
was
so
Move
they
called.
have a bull and a
contracts.
bear.
Yeah. So like you don't have to. You're just like betting on vol expansion. I think that'll be super cool, especially for crypto, since like when vol kicks in, it kind of like really kicks in. Um, but I wouldn't know how to actually build it. Have always been interested in those products, but the move product on FTX, if I recall, was had very very poor volumes.
Yeah, with the move contract, it was pretty interesting that people, I mean, the liquidity sucked, right? But essentially, you could hedge out your portfolio with the move contract. I think Romano did a write up on that
Yeah,
one. So that
yeah.
was
He's
pretty
like,
cool.
I think he was doing like the 3x bull move. I think there was a product that he wrote up about that and how he was using it to hedge.
Yeah, to hedge out the total portfolio. So, I mean, yeah, that's a cool contract. But I think this Deribit futures is going to be bringing people into the vol game, right? Just trading vol. Like, if you can just bet, I mean, if you just bet down, right? Bears since November, you would have made, FU money. But on those days, like, oh, the FTX crash, whatever, or that week, and volatility just went from like 3x, right? It's going to be a good product for the degens for sure.
Yeah, and also like it's a good product even for like an environment like right now. Like um, after that last Thursday sell off, we've kind of been choppy range bound environment, and if you kind of have this bias where you don't really know if we're going to break up or break down because there's valid arguments for both, whether you're looking technically like super overshorted market or more fundamentally looking at like macro stuff. Um, I would be interested in doing like a straddle, but it's kind of expensive to lay out all that premium to do that. Um, but if there was like a VIX product or like a better version of the Move product, that's just as good in my opinion.
Yeah, it's basically just
For
going to
exact,
be VIX futures is going to be the Deribit product. So that's
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Did they say they launching that like
I talked to them 2 days ago or a day ago, and they said weeks. We asked days, weeks, or months, and they said weeks.
all
There's a
right?
team I met with last year in, I don't remember if it was France or Spain, but they have the guy that created the VIX advisor board, and they were creating a crypto volatility index. I'm not sure where they went with that. DK, did you keep up on
I
CVI at
think,
all?
yeah, I was gonna say I think their product was like the CVIX or something. Um, no, I didn't keep up on it, but judging that we don't know about them right now, I don't know how
I'm going to
popular.
say that it's not there.
Yeah, yeah, I know they pivoted, or they put a pause on what they were doing for a while, but it was, I think, because the market was taking a turn for the worst last year. But then I saw them at the end of the year, so wasn't sure if they popped back up.
Yeah, we can follow up. We can go look at that for sure. No, I just think that it's this whole time has been uh, like a non-existent vol time, right? Like, oh, people always ask me, like, oh, what are you doing? I'm literally just selling options in bulk. That's it. I'm not buying. I think I bought 3 contracts in the last since January, and that was just like Moon Boy outright calls that the bot thought was basically free. Like, if we do get some crazy expansion into 3K, 4K on ETH, if then these calls would basically go from worthless pennies when we bought them into, you know, tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, which would be, a good payout. But yeah, the vol regime is pretty bad. We have a proprietary chart. I don't even know how you would explain it. And when the walls come together on the chart, it basically means that volatility is coming, but you just don't know when. It could be months, right? It could be tomorrow or it could be months. So we're expecting and preparing our book for some volatility. It's just more on the timing of when. We're at all-time lows on crypto volatility, so you have to be prepared for those days when vol's back.
Yeah, ETH's been in like a $30 range for the last week.
And what about you, the DeFi guy, the Polkadot Maxi? What's going on?
Morale's pretty high on my end. I've figured out a lot more of the algos on my side. I know Marty from another Twitter Spaces. I don't trade much options. I used to in my last gig, but I just trade DeFi now. So yeah, morale's high on my end. I had another good day today. I know the volatility is kind of weird for you guys, but it's working for me, so I'm happy enough. But yeah, all good on my end. Out of interest, just what you were just saying. Um, so again, when I was a trader as well, we would also notice that obviously volatility will compress and then it will blow up very quickly overnight. And as you're saying, you don't really know which side that's going to come on the market, up or down. So what's your kind of strategy then if you expect volatility but you don't know which side? Are you just, buying strangles or selling straddles, or what kind of strategy are you taking not knowing where the market's going to go? Like, one thing I love about my strategy these days, or the way I trade these days, is like, I don't really care which way the price goes anymore. I just want it to go up or down, and that gives me enough chance to make a load of trades. So I guess that's my question for you, Marty, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think any of these guys know you. So the DeFi guy is like a Polkadot Maxi. He swims in the Polkadot ecosystem, and that's his bread and butter, right? I don't know anybody else who swims in that ecosystem, so it's just him. Um,
Yeah,
for the
I'm
question,
definitely not a maxi, but
oh, you're a
but
Maxi,
I do all my
Polkadot
trading in
Maxi
around
for sure,
Polkadot. So.
Polkadot Maxi. Oh no, but back to the question. Yeah, like so since November, I mean, we always want to be the seller, right? And sometimes the bot's a little weird, and it starts selling. Um, like the other day, it started selling like April super deep in the money puts, which was strange, right? It started selling like 2,000, 2,100 puts, which doesn't make any sense, right? Why would it be doing that? And then like 3 days later, they were already like 20 or 30%, and then it decided to close them. When it comes to picking a direction, we're trying to get this damn bot to do something that's a little magic, trying to figure out which way the price is going to move every minute, right? So that gets expensive with all the computing, but essentially that's what we're trying to do. Right now we have like an 85% which is really high, right? Accuracy on which way price is going to go every minute. So every minute it's trying to find a new direction, and every 5 to 10 seconds it's re-hedging our deltas. So as long as there's not a huge like spike in 5 seconds, 10 seconds, right? In crypto, that could be a huge, huge, huge spike, right? So we're trying to get it to 1 second. But as long as price doesn't go like on ETH, like $500 in 10 seconds, then the bot will reconfigure everything all on its own. Because I'm stupid, right? So the bot that's my job now is tending to the bot, feeding the bot, feed the bot good data, and the bot makes you money.
Fair. I'm sorry to do a follow-up question is quick, but I presume you're not selling naked puts or naked calls. It's all spreads.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah.
Like those ones, um, those like 2,100 puts, those are just like outright puts. Like we were like, why would we ever sell that? No human would ever sell that. It doesn't make any sense. Like we couldn't find why it sold it. Even like 2, 3 weeks later, we're still trying to figure out why it sold it. And then 3 days later, I think it was like 20, 30%, right? But why would you ever sell that? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I mean, basically our job now is just tending to the bot and trying to figure out what's the best data stream, what's the most efficient way. Um, but back to the question, like sometimes it's naked. I mean, we're collateralized, fully collateralized, right? But sometimes it's just a naked put. Most of the time it spreads.
What are you using for data feeds when you say you feed it good data? Talk about that for a minute.
That's just the bot. If you feed the bot good data, the bot makes money. If you feed it shit data and then the data's late or you don't keep the feed up, AWS goes down or Azure, Microsoft Azure goes down. Then it doesn't know, right? It keeps looking every 10 seconds. Right now, we pull all of the data from Deribit, so we have the live data. And then we have also all the historical data that it's always churning like vol regimes, basically. Like all the time it's pulling Deribit info because mostly we trade on Deribit. But once there's a DeFi product that we can come in and sell specific options, like on Zeta originally when they had options up, so we were also pulling data from there, and we were checking our Deribit positions and then our Zeta positions, and always constantly updating. Right now, the bot tries to update every 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. So imagine, you're down for a minute. The bot's like F, error. So right now we're hosting on AWS, but I think we're going to look at getting a generator and like an in-home NVIDIA box. It's like 100 grand for a fucking computer, but our AWS bill's way too high right now.
Fair enough. I don't think there's any real mature feeds outside of Deribit anyways.
No, not for options, right? And all the historical data, but that's only, 2018, I guess? 2017 was Deribit. It's not like you're pulling SPOO's data from the fucking 60s, That's all been digitalized.
Is there any benefit to maybe pulling in NASDAQ data for correlation purposes?
We did do the correlate on the Premia newsletter. We did do the correlation of Bitcoin and ETH against the Nasdaq. Right now, or recently, it's been more pulling macro data. So more pulling the VIX instead of that's separate, right? But instead of pulling specifically Nasdaq, we're pulling the VIX. It seems to be more correct. And then for macro, it's okay. FOMC, CPI, non-farm payroll, all the speeches, but it's a lot of nonsense, right? Like, FOMC minutes. Well, the data's a month old, but the call has an effect, or the press release has an effect. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have a alternative data provider for the sentiment, or you guys do sentiment yourself?
I think we have an alternative.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a few shops I think that do that now.
Yeah, we just spend too much money, right? I'm not a coder, right, at all. I couldn't even figure out how to fucking send an email if I tried, right? I'm horrible. I got a guy that does all of the computer stuff on the back end, and then I'm the face, right? Marty is many people. It's not just one person.
The many faces of Marty.
Dude, many personalities. If I shave or don't shave, there's a few people that do. And what are you guys doing? What are you trading, Professor? Are you trading vol, or you're just sitting on your hands?
I was doing a lot of perp stuff, but I think it's a really interesting time for options, especially because we have a couple potential vol-inducing events coming up. Like you said, employment is coming around the corner for this Friday, pre-market New York, I think.
8:30.
Yeah, thanks. So I think the way the market is structured right now, it's shorted to a absolute oblivion. And if employment softens up, and we kind of got an inkling of an idea today with the JOLTS openings, I don't think, fundamentals aside, I don't think it's significantly enough for Powell to kind of maybe change course. I think it's actually not like significantly not enough, and they're not happy with that number. But I think upside is underpriced right now. So I'm entertaining a spread, long call spread for next week. Reason why it's a spread is because I don't have like super high conviction, but if we do get like a short squeeze, BTC like near the money, I mean slightly out of the money calls for next week could be a good play. And if because I'm not super high conviction, I put gonna short like something like 24.5K, maybe long 23K is an interesting play. And you could ratio it if you have higher or lower conviction. But yeah, just like given everything, like we can get it kind of lines up for that, right? Like so, just to explain, if employment, I always like playing these like potential vol-inducing events. If employment does soften up on Friday, you could get a bid on BTC, and everybody's short into this market right now. Especially on like the majors, BTC and ETH. So it's a perfect time to utilize the options product, I think. And I think I'm gonna put that on maybe at like market close today.
Yeah, I was looking at we have like basically like our own GEX, a gamma chart basically, and I just reran it just right now. Fucking 22K is like insane. So 22K, 21, 22 should hold. If it doesn't, yeah, good luck, right? Like you're back to lose this level lights out, right? We don't want to be that guy, but um essentially we need to hold that. And it looks like people are bidding even right now all the way out to 30K, and then 32K kind of falls off. But specifically people are bidding 20 round numbers 23, 24, 25, and 30. I don't know.
Are you looking at because I know we talked about this. Like I kind of want to get a better. I think there's a lot of tools out there that produce like gamma bands charts for BTC and ETH. It's used heavily for like more TradFi stuff, like for SPX and SPY and the Qs. But gamma bands, and again, I think we talked about this briefly. I just don't know exactly what chart you're running. But I would assume it's like we're kind of pinned here. It's super tight. I'm assuming
Yeah, I
whatever
mean,
you're looking at.
clearly it's pinned. No, this isn't the rolling gamma chart. This one is just a Bitcoin gamma exposure by strike chart. And the other day it was like, all the levels are kind of the same. And right now, like 22 is just huge. So if we break 22, yeah, that's real bad, right? But I'm expecting this level to kind of hold, and if the just like you, if the jobs data comes in soft, I think JP Morgan's expecting it to be softer. I think bad news is good, right? Because then Powell can't keep hiking, or the 50 is off the table, right? The 50 bips is off the table. You just go back to 25. If not, then yeah, I mean, you get this double dip market. I don't know if you call it a recession, but market dip, and we can just buy some more coins for cheap.
Yeah, that's another vol-inducing event. What is that? FOMC March 22nd.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the month, yeah, and then you have the quarterly expiry, so that's going to be big. Yeah, the month March is a big month for sure, and I don't know if we get this run, if it's sustainable. We always seem to get some fuckery in like summer, like, oh my God, we're back. Everybody's on the bandwagon. And then TradFi goes to the Hamptons for vacation. And then we're just left holding the bag, and, price just falls.
I mean, crypto specific events this week. There's the digital asset subcommittee meets tomorrow at 2 p.m. to hear on the administration's like negative impact on the digital asset ecosystem. I mean, it'd probably be a nothing burger, but another thing to watch. 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
You know what? You just reminded me. I think like Grayscale's also talking with the regulator about the ETF approval, and like
The judges were bullish
I
on
think
it. Like they're like, so they met. I know I don't know what happened today or
so.
tomorrow, but yesterday when they met, the judges were like super informed and were like grilling the SEC.
They were.
Yeah, that was good.
So here's a wild imagination idea, and it might not be good for vol sellers. So like if the Grayscale ETF gets approved for spot, then I feel like people are gonna buy that. Um, sorry, they would want to shift to people holding spot BTC would probably want to shift to the ETF, maybe for custodial purposes, security purposes, what have you, a more regulated product, and then they would be long the ETF, and then they would short. They would do that like short futures trade, which suppresses vol, like naturally by shorting futures.
Yeah.
And I think that would be horrible for us as vol sellers.
Yeah.
That's just like a wild kind of imagination like that I'm thinking.
It would catch a bid though. I think the the outstanding retail bid would be pretty powerful.
Yeah, no, when I was a derivatives trader in London, the day we looked out for the most was a spot Bitcoin ETF, because it's not the retail traders that are jumping in; it's all the institutions who, in their rules and regulations, they can't buy unregulated products. So, like, if random Joe Soap in Illinois wants to buy Bitcoin right now, he can just go on Coinbase, but the Ohio pension fund's not able to. So, like, I definitely think that the ruling from yesterday, or not the ruling, but the judge's initial comments basically were, oh, the futures ETF is already regulated, so why aren't you guys regulating a spot Bitcoin ETF? And there's something like $6 billion in value being left on the table because it's not an ETF, so it trades at a discount. The second they can convert from a trust to an ETF, then the shares will trade at the same price as Bitcoin, so it will instantly go back to par. So, like, my personal opinion is the day the spot Bitcoin ETF goes live will be the best day in crypto history. That will be the biggest and best day we've ever seen. Everything will just go up only. But unfortunately, while the court case is ongoing and is actually going our way, similar to the XRP court case at the moment, even if they win, it doesn't default mean they're allowed to convert to an ETF. It just means that the SEC are allowed to kind of continue fighting, or like the battle kind of just continues. The war continues, but we've won a battle. But I do, as I always tell people, like, the best day in crypto prices will be the day a spot Bitcoin ETF goes live, because that's when the Norway pension fund can join in, the Ohio teachers pension fund, all the Saudi Arabian guys can jump in. Like, if we're 1% of pension portfolio, that's hundreds of billions of dollars just piling in on these regulated assets. That's my opinion anyway.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like the spot ETF is important because like they have to actually have the spot. I forget exactly how the ETF mechanics work, but like however they design it and structure it, like they'll actually have to have custody of like the BTC. They'll represent it in shares, which is why it's like fundamentally bullish. Acknowledge
Yeah,
that. The
an ETF works the exact same way as it would for the S&P 500, so it's weighted with the S&P 500. So when client comes in and buys one share of the S&P 500 off VanEck, they then are required to buy equal of all the securities in that ETF asset. Same goes if they sell. So the advantage is user or client gets to buy a fully regulated asset from their Interactive Brokers account or DeGiro account or whatever brokerage firm you use. but then the guys running the fund are then forced to go onto the spot market and buy and hold Bitcoin. Or let's remember, if people sell the shares, they will also sell. But if it's a new product, there's no shares to sell. So
Yeah, ETF creation redemption. I mean, they don't necessarily have to buy market buy that inventory, right? Like I have a feeling like the twins have been trying to get an ETF passed for like 5 years, but they also hold a significant amount of Bitcoin that they can use as collateral, like to collateralize that.
No, if a client buys one share of worth of Bitcoin in their ETF, they 100% are required to buy real Bitcoins.
Correct.
To back up that one share for
it
the
needs
client.
to be fully collateralized.
The exact same thing goes to exactly. The exact same thing goes for your S&P 500 index that people like to buy. If you buy those, the fund is required to buy the underlying securities to back that up.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
Sorry,
is
I was big in stocks before crypto.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it not necessarily means that they have to buy it on the market. They can buy it OTC.
Oh yeah, well, of course, yeah. They can. They probably would figure out OTC deals for that period of time. But at the end of the day, it's pulling Bitcoin off the exchanges. Even when they're getting it off OTC, guys, the Binance team will still, or the whatever OTC broker you want to use, they still will have to go out and acquire those real Bitcoins. And the advantage of Bitcoins is it's a limited supply. And one thing I always try to stay true to in kind of my view of the crypto markets is like everything revolves off Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up, everything goes up. Like if Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down. Like sure, there may be more ups and downs depending on which coin you're in, but as we've seen up until now, since 2009, the whole market is heavily correlated to Bitcoin. So if we can just get 1% of the Norwegian pension fund, largest pension fund in the whole world, that's hundreds of billions of dollars. That will pump Bitcoin, which will pump everything. So yeah, definitely a day I'm very looking forward to, hopefully in the near future.
I think it might be as soon as this summer, if I'm not mistaken. Like the SEC has to respond to Grayscale in June or July. Forget exactly the date, but it's definitely coming up around the corner.
Yeah, see, there's been literally a dozen of these over the years. Like I was working on a team where we were trying to trade these events, kind of waiting for them to come out in hopes that they would. I try not to get my hopes up when these kind of moments come. But from clearly what the judge is saying in this court case between Grayscale and the SEC, it does look like it's breaking our way. And fundamentally, just from a philosophical perspective, um, if you can manipulate the spot market, that will manipulate the futures market. And so their reason for not regulating a spot Bitcoin ETF is very poor right now, in my opinion. With the XRP Ripple being security, the SEC kind of have a point there. Ripple does walk a fine line of security, but with the spot Bitcoin ETF, it's kind of, I think legal opinion much more favors us than them. And it feels pretty bad. Like, remember, if you're just a normal Joe Soap and you bought the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, so not the ETF, and it's trading at a big discount now, you're like losing a shitload of money and feel like an idiot for something that's not really your fault. Like, you thought it was a trust. It also still holds Bitcoin, but it just can't be redeemed. So, that would make me think the courts would break in our favor. But again, I've been wrong about this before. And remember, we are crypto people, so we're pro all the crypto products. Most of the world is not on the same page as us, so we need to bear that in mind too. But I am optimistic long run. I also do personally think we've seen the worst of the kind of the bear market lows. I'm sure we could go down maybe to 18, 19 again, but markets hate uncertainty, and everyone can see all the risks coming. Like everyone knows interest rates are coming. Everyone is watching inflation. Like we would need a black swan event or a tail risk event for us to really suffer back down to the 15, 12Ks again. It's just my opinion though.
I thought we were going to be in that range, 12, 15. I thought that was going to be like the low, but once we started ripping past like the FTX crash, the FTX peak, I don't even know what we're going to call that. Yeah, my bias kind of changed. I try not to really pick a bias, and I try not to be like a moon boy or a doomsday, but and doing less directional trading lately than before post FTX. But I think I talked with Gvol Greg on a Spaces the other day, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think about the Gvol trade? Or not Gvol, Jesus Christ. What do you think about the Grayscale trade?" And I was like, "It all sounds good, but I don't like any of those guys. I don't like Barry. I don't want to touch anything Barry does with a 6 foot pole. So, if somebody wants to go out and buy that, and then what if the SEC comes back, and what if they tell them to fuck off, basically, right? Screw you. Well, then you're still in the same boat, right? Oh, you can't redeem. There's a huge discount. I mean, it all sounds good if it gets rolled over into the new product, but if it doesn't, you're just stuck holding the bag."
Yeah, I kind of thought it was over for them, but Barry always finds a way.
Don't fade Barry, dude. I don't want to touch anything Barry does. Never again.
He makes $400 million in fees off that every year. Not coming in Bitcoin, coming in US dollars. $400 million
right?
in fees. It's insane. It's I know everyone hates him, but I hate to be so impressed with his ability to generate fees, but I am.
Yeah, no, there's that, and then you have all the there's no more Genesis lending, right? So that got blown up. But it's always the smartest people in the room that are kind of dummies too. Yeah, he makes 400 mil, but he also lost Genesis lending for what? Do you guys dabble in any of that? And then do you guys trade with Genesis on any side?
No, I'm like our Polkadot friend here, DeFi Maxi.
My
Screw
man, I'm the
Barry.
same.
Long
Oh,
DeFi.
only smart contracts, bros.
Yeah, only the things where you can read the fine print, right? Yeah,
No,
just strange,
I
the
think
whole
there's like
Barry thing.
people that have been around for, I don't want to say like a while, but at least a couple cycles. I think have a different view on like security and kind of like see what tools are accessible to them in a different vein than people that came in a bit later or were TradFi first and then kind of came over. So I've kind of shied away from using centralized services since DeFi became available to, well, I should say more or less since more financial tools became available in DeFi for us to use, and it branched out from just maker CDPs.
Is this is a change in direction, but is anyone up to date on the stuff going on in Hong Kong and the ability for crypto to be changed within that traded within that region? I think it goes live summer.
Yeah, basically what's happening is because of the Hong Kong lockdowns and kind of the whole, returning of Hong Kong to China kind of situation, the protests, a lot of companies obviously left Hong Kong, so they kind of want to revitalize the crypto industry because a lot of them flew from Hong Kong to Singapore. So what's going to happen now is they're bringing out regulations, as you said, in the summer to allow institutional investors to invest in a selection of pre-approved cryptocurrency assets. Now, the question is, and where this could break either positively for us or kind of just either or, is will they let retail also into that bucket? But even just institutional, capital coming in from Hong Kong is massive because remember, like Hong Kong is the London of China. or Hong Kong is the New York of America. So it is the epicenter for kind of investments and finance in China. So again, I do think that could be a catalyst for us going into the end of this year. I also personally am a big like Bitcoin halving guy. I've made a lot of money on these halvings over my kind of time in the markets. So what we're like 406 days from the next halving, or sorry, a year and 4 days from the next halving. So I kind of see that happening. I do think that the Hong Kong news is bullish. I just question whether we'll be able to trade on that or whether we'll be able to profit on that kind of news.
Yeah, I guess how easy it is to get around capital controls, the currency controls. Because if it's pretty easy for an institution to get their CNY to Hong Kong and then transfer that out for Bitcoin, then that could be like a major vol event. But if it's pretty difficult,
these are going to be like licensed products where like you can buy. It's a bit like buying, Bitcoin at Revolut, where you buy the Bitcoin but you don't really own it. They kind of hold it for you, and you can sell it, but you can never withdraw it. I think it kind of will turn to be like that because, as you said, like the Chinese really don't like when you pull money out of their country. They really, really, really don't like that. So I can't imagine they're gonna, all of a sudden want people sending Bitcoins around the world.
I have a thesis here. Like, what if, well, not what if, because it's happening right now, but you have choke point, chokehold, whatever they're calling it, 2.0 in the States. The Fed, the Gov, is basically going after every onboard and off ramp. You have Silvergate down. That leaves like two people left, three people left that are banking with crypto companies. Even today, JP Morgan dropped Gemini. I wonder, maybe you guys can think about it and we can talk about it, but what happens or why couldn't we use another currency to denominate crypto in? And like, I don't know, China's like, oh yeah, we're all in, let's say. Oh, so now it's all against trade against the CNY, and onboarding and offboarding is like super easy, and everybody screws the US dollar, and you leave America out of the crypto ecosystem, right? Ecosystem. Could be China or somebody else. Anybody.
I mean, you saw that
Brazil, right? Brazil's passing all these laws. That's 220 million people, right?
Yeah, I mean, Russia was allowing you to buy oil and gold. They were price fixing it, but I mean that's a gateway. I could see a world where the digital CNY becomes the denominating asset of a large trading volume of BTC. But if that happened, then does the US like fucking take a full on allergic approach to crypto?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't think that you should be in the States building a product as like a US company, right? There's a lot of other places that you can register the company. There's lots of beautiful places in the world to live. But all these people that are trying to run different things in different areas in the States, especially building in the States, right? Oh, you can have your company somewhere else and live in the States, but oh, you're registered in Delaware. Like, yeah, come on, guys. I think you're going to see a clampdown maybe even before the new bull run. Right now, they're just on like a full on. It's like a SWAT. It's like a SWAT mission on anything and everything. The SEC is overreaching a little bit, I think, on their regulations. Like they arrested that Russian dude who runs a Russian Chinese exchange and said that he laundered money and he was just partying in Miami. Like, isn't that China's and Russia's problem, not the US's?
I think the biggest problem with securities regulations when you kind of refer to this is the second you touch US persons' money, then it falls under the SEC's remit. It's why whenever you're signing up for a brokerage account, or even when you're signing up for like your Coinbase account or whatever, it will always ask you, are you an American citizen? Even if you're not in America. once you're dealing with people with US passports, even if they're in another jurisdiction, they always fall into a different category. I kind of sit in the person who said this originally's kind of camp of, I think you'd be a fool right now to do anything crypto related in the US. Like, they've gone after everyone blue chip. Like, Kraken's got hit, Paxos has got hit, Gemini are getting hit. BUSD is obviously getting smoked. I think it's going to be very hard in the next 6 months, 18 months to do kind of anything crypto related in or around the US that isn't Bitcoin mining. Especially in the kind of game we're all in, where I wouldn't want this repeated, but we are basically dealing in unregistered securities, most of us. It sucks to say, but we are. And that is not legal in the eyes of the SEC. I think that's a scary subject now for anyone in the US dealing in crypto. Like, the only people who've got away with cryptoing in the last 2 years in the US are Circle. And that's because they're basically building the CBDC for the US. It's like, why would you go there when you can go to Cayman Islands or the Bahamas or Thailand or something? Just my opinion. I'm in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
let's explore this for a minute. So, yeah, it's true if you touch any U.S. person's citizen's money as they hold a U.S. passport, then they have jurisdiction. And you have seen a lot of the things that happened in the last year, like with FTX moving to the Bahamas, and you were starting to see, like, it's dead on arrival now, but you were starting to see a lot of headquarters starting to move into the Bahamas or Bermuda because of their favorable crypto laws, because banking was shutting down regardless, right? Like, if a lot of the founders in the space, their ultimate beneficial owners of these different protocols are US persons, no foreign bank is willing to provide you banking services if the ultimate beneficial owner is A, if the product is in crypto, and B, if the ultimate beneficial owner is a US person, regardless if they live in the US or not. If they hold a US passport, they don't want to touch you. So there's a lot of, like, legal things that you have to do to, like, jump through those circles. But playing on, we brought up Silvergate at the very beginning. Okay, Silvergate's pretty much dead in the water. I got a theory that maybe the reason that Kraken curbed so easily was they're like, okay, we'll pay this fine, we'll walk away from it, no contest. However, you grant us a Fedwire routing number, because I don't know if you guys are following the banking world for crypto, but Wyoming is the only one that has the SBDI, the Special Banking Depository Institution, and there are two main front runners right now. That's Custodia Bank, which hasn't gotten anything, and then Kraken Bank, which already has, like, technically a ground presence, I believe, in Cheyenne. They're pretty much ready to spin everything up, and then you can have banking services and crypto custodian services in the U.S. legally, which is, like, one of the main problems right now for any founder. I could see a world in which this year we see that banking revitalize in a compliant manner, housed in some place like Wyoming, or Nevada is also pretty pro crypto. I think Montana a little bit, Vermont.
Just not New York, okay? Anywhere but New York is pro crypto.
Or California.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of the financial hubs, yeah, right? No, yeah, like if Kraken gets the bank, and then, like, a founder has easy access to banking, or teams, founders and teams, and the whole thing is the SEC needs to come out and revise the laws that were wrote in the 1940s, or don't even rewrite the whole thing, write all new ones specifically for crypto, and say this is right and this is wrong. This is SEC, this is CFTC.
It's actually Congress.
And then
Congress needs to do that. SEC.
no, yeah.
SEC is just
No, I'm saying, like, yeah, no, like, these are the regulators. What I meant is, like, this is security, this is a commodity, right? Explain what it is, and rewrite all the new rules and then, okay, you can do this and you can't do this. You can have banking services, you can be home free, you can live in America, you can have a company, you can have a team, you can have a bank, all in America if you follow these rules. But we're in this weird gray area where they're like, oh, these are the rules, and oh, you didn't know the rules? Oh, how did you not know the rules? And then you have to pay a fine or jail or whatever, right? So if there's a clear cut regulatory front, then America can be all for innovation, just like it always has been with tech. And sure, that will prosper in the US. But if they just keep doing what they're doing, people are going to get tired and they're just leaving, right? Like I was tired, I left. I live in Brazil. The Brazilian government has like 180 days to write up the law, a full crypto law. They already basically gave bullet points on what they're going to be building it on and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And there's all full regulatory landscape. There's banking. There's exchanges. There's all these rules already. They're just adding crypto rules, and that's 220 million people, 230 million people person country with a financial hub in Sao Paulo that I think people are going to come and realize like, oh, you can have a company here, but as long as you don't, just like in America, as long as you don't touch Brazilian people's money, then you don't have to have a money license, a CVM license, but you can operate your company out of Brazil and offer derivatives and services and products, unregulated securities, like they're saying. Um, like that, like you guys said, to other people in the world, but besides America. But you don't have, but as long as you don't take Brazilian people's money and as long as you don't publicly advertise derivatives, then you're okay. Like Bybit, they sponsored F1, they were hosting parties, they had Twitter ads, come trade with leverage, and the Brazilian government shut them down so fast.
Yeah, it's an interesting space right now. We don't need, I mean, this talk is options related, but I think by any of the major governments, by the time that they make any sort of real opinion or stance, everything will be ZK'd. And they're not going to have any idea of what's going on. It's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so they just have to come up with the rules, right? Then people can build options protocols if they're able to. Or if they can't build in America or wherever the jurisdiction is, then they'll go where they're treated best and they'll launch the best product that they can and they'll, have the team that they want and just but it's just like the US regulatory landscape right now is pushing everybody away, which is what they say that they don't want, but it's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's my final thought, I guess.
From a volume perspective, though, it's still predominantly U.S. based, at least in.
Well, yeah, right. America has like the most millionaires or something, right? So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I think we're gonna wrap up. It's been like an hour already.
Been on for an hour, so we can open it up to anyone in the audience. The only thing I saw in the comments was they hope that this partnership lasts a while, and we do too. We like the Marty.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think we talk a little bit. I think a lot of people missed the beginning and the Deribit talk and the devolve futures, which is like the VIX futures, VIX futures. That's going to be big, and I think a lot of people miss that at the beginning. But does anybody have any questions? Do they want to come up and ask? Last time we had no questions either.
I'm a man of many questions. I'll ask you a question then, Marty. So,
Talk
from
to me.
what I've heard about you and your trading strategy, do you ever wonder that you're making the classic financial markets mistake of picking pennies up in front of a steamroller? So, the age-old adage goes of selling options. Every single day you'll get to pick the penny up and the steamroller moves quite slowly. But then one day you'll have sold an option and that'll be the bad day. So I'm sure you don't do that, but what kind of you didn't say, you said you weren't always fully hedged. So how do you kind of make sure you're not doing that? You make sure you're
No,
not
always
picking
fully
pennies up.
hedged, always fully hedged, and always fully collateralized, right? I think it was like January when we had like a little spike. Uh, we were caught off guard on that run, and then we've changed the model and we've moved the model to be more adaptive and try to be faster in opening and closing positions instead of holding all the way to expiry. Like, well, why do you need to hold? You already got like 90%, right? Why do you need to hold to expiry? Um, and like this week, I'll give an example of this week. We closed out like 90% of all of the options on Monday because we knew that this non-farm payroll week was coming and JPAL's talking twice and just something that we didn't want to be a part of. We lowered our margin requirements. We closed out most of the positions, and then you're still just selling options. I think I'm interested personally to take that like long call or spread into maybe the end of the month. Nothing like people think options are 100% winners, 500% winners all the time, 10,000x winners, right? It's like, so, if you make 5%, 10%, 50%, like on one trade, like that's amazing, right?
I'll also say, like, I've been selling vol on crypto for like since inception of Deribit, 2017, 2016 era, like super OG. And like I have my fair share of just complete blow ups. But I always calculate it. I usually, whenever the market turns against me, because I'm not always like delta neutral, depending on my like bias, book is either negative or positive delta. But like you have to think about, I always think about it as like if you are long term bullish on whatever Bitcoin or Ethereum, you are picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, as long as like you don't get steamrolled like more than once a quarter, because that's usually like that was like my kind of like rate. You can still earn like 1 to 2% a week of your equity over the year. So it's worked out pretty well for me, even though like I don't have any algos like running any hedges for me. I'm just a manual button clicker.
What about you, DK?
And
Are you trading? Are you trading?
I'm selling options. I'm always selling options though. Like I mean, they give you the Premia, plug. Like we use the products uh, in Minecraft. We use the products that we build. So I mean, I'm always selling options on our platform, but I am not taking on any positions other than those sells. I have no directional bias right now for the most part. I sell both sides.
I'm hearing right before we wrap up, I'm hearing that JPM did not cut ties with Gemini. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can never trust the Bird app.
They posted it. Yeah, Gemini's account posted that. I was gonna say, but I didn't want to interrupt. It's
Okay,
intent.
all right. Just so we're not spreading the fake news and so we don't get canceled.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, you guys.
As always, with our
Bye, guys.
disclaimer, not financial advice. Thanks everyone for joining.
All righty. Peace out, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. Bye. Later, Professor, DeFi guy, Marty. Thanks again.